Ron Pramschafer, and welcome to Publishing Basics Radio, where weekly we help you navigate the self-publishing minefield. Publishing Basics Radio is sponsored by self-publishing.com, the Internet's only self-publishing superstore. Think you're ready to publish a book? Try self-publishing.com. Now on with the program. Today's guest is Christine Louise Hohlbaum, also known as the PR Diva Queen. Christine, where'd that all come from?
Well, it actually came about through my sister, believe it or not. She is a veteran PR person. She has her own firm in Charlottesville, Virginia. And, I just kept reporting to her all the different media hits that I was getting, and she just finally said, my gosh, you are the PR diva. And then I was friends with a woman who has a website called Queen Power, so she wanted me to be a moderator on her forums, sort of focusing more on promotion and how business women can actually promote themselves. And so she coined me PR Diva Queen, and I liked that a lot better, so that's kind of why I'm called that.
All right, so you got promoted from regular old diva to queen.
I got coronated.
So now you mentioned PR. It may sound like a kind of a crazy question, but I get a different answer from everybody. What's your definition of PR?
My definition of PR, which means public relations, essentially, because I'm coming through the lens of an author, I call it basically free advertising. It's not advertising, because there's a difference between PR and advertising. Mm-hmm. PR is something where you are mentioned in the media, where you build a platform where you're the expert, where people come to you and ask questions, and you give them answers, and then they're satisfied. It's like that's what PR is for me, and that you're in the spotlight and giving people the information that they need, and looking, it's building your image is basically what it is, and you use the media to do that. Advertising is something that you pay for, and it's something that always costs money, and PR does not.
Now, as far as like the publishing process, up to the point of getting the books into the garage, it's pretty mechanical. It's pretty predictable, pretty mechanical. The problem is, now we get up to the point where I've got some books. And the big question, of course, is now what? And
right.
This is where it starts getting, everybody knows the obvious. I need to sell books.
Ron, actually, I would take a step back before you get the books in the garage.
Okay.
I would say before you're even hitting the press, you need to do your work. You need to do a lot of work beforehand. You need to be gathering endorsements. You need to be getting back cover testimonials from people. You need to get support. You need to build a marketing plan. You need to treat your book like a business. And I try to tell my authors to think beyond the book, too, which we can get to in a moment, because it's not really about the book. When you're trying to sell a book, it's not about the book. It's about what the book can do for people. So you have to think about all of these things before you even get the book into the garage. Okay. You need to think, what is my message? Who am I targeting? And how can I get it out there such that people will say, I have to have this because this is going to be the solution to my problem?
My problem could be I just need to be entertained on the train ride into work?
Absolutely. That could be the problem.
And
you would be the solution to that problem. You would be the filler for that 45-minute commute. So what you need to do is you need to think, first of all, what is it that I'm trying to bring to the world when I produce this thing? Like, I'm not just going to sit in my computer for a year and write this thing and then not think about the reader, because you need to really be thinking about who's going to buy this book. And so what you want to do is get third-party credibility through people that are in that field. Maybe you've written a mystery, written some kind of novel, a thriller or whatever. Then you would want to get like Dan Brown to say your book is awesome. So you want to get a lot of people who are famous, who have already gone down this journey to really say that your book is awesome. And then once you've got that, then you can create press releases from that and say, oh, look, Dan Brown thinks my book is great. And then people will pay attention.
Oh, that's a good idea. Because it always seemed like it was pretty easy within nonfiction, to pick experts within the field to say that you know what you're talking about.
Right.
But with fiction, I never thought of how to get endorsements for fiction.
Absolutely. You want to have your A-list and your B-list and your C-list. Your A-list is obviously the people that have already made it, and they're the ones that are going to be the hardest to get, because they're the ones that basically, everybody's going to. So you have to work through their publicist, for example, like a Dan Brown would have a publicist definitely working for him. And, I got through Jack Canfield. I got Christiane Northrup to actually look at Sam I Am and then endorse it. So it took a lot of work, and that's why I say you want to have at least 6 months before your book even hits the presses, before your publication date, to make sure that you've got the support and that you can put that on your back cover. Because then people will look at the book and say, oh my God, Jack Canfield likes this book? Oh God, yeah, let's buy it. It must be good.
Okay. Yeah, because, everybody, especially nowadays with the technology, everybody's got different reasons for publishing. So we throw out the people that just want to publish just so they can see their name in print and have some copies for their family.
Yes.
And we're talking about the group that really thinks they can be the next whoever it is. Right.
We're talking, when I talk about PR, because why else do it? If you're just doing it for Grandma and Aunt Sally, then don't even worry about the PR. That's not even something that is a concern for you. But if you're an author that really wants to sell the books, and we started the conversation with what do you do once you have the books in your garage, if you really want to sell them, then you need to instill trust in people so that when they see your name, they say, that's a person I can go to for this, this, and this. For example, Joan Stewart, right? She has a website called Publicity Hound. She has a fabulous free newsletter and then a fee-based newsletter. And whenever you see her name, you immediately think Publicity Hound. Like, that's her tagline.
Yep, that's true.
And she's done a great job in branding herself. And that's basically what that's called. It's called branding yourself as an expert in whatever it is that you're doing, and hopefully it will be book-related.
So you're like the PR diva queen. So if I did a book on PR, I'd maybe try to get you to give me a little blurb for the back.
Absolutely.
And you wouldn't think of that as being like a competitor?
I wouldn't. And the reason is, I had Carolyn Howard Johnson endorse my CD-ROM called The Author's Companion, a self-guided course on book promotion. And she wrote a book called The Frugal Book Promoter. And I even mentioned her book in my resource.
Yeah, so you complement each other. There is no, one book on anything.
It's called The Power of Cross-Promotion because you're both targeting similar groups. So why not work exponentially and say, here's my book that solves this problem, Frugal Book Promoter, someone who doesn't have money. Here's my CD-ROM, The Author's Companion, a self-guided course on book promotion, someone who really doesn't know about the Internet, for example, and wants to have these 200 clickable links.
I guess that's another whole interview. Amazon has done an excellent job with that, with the cross-promotion when you go to check out. People who have bought this book are also interested in this book, or people interested in this subject, and a lot of that's paid now, and Amazon's going to turn it into a lot of money. But as a user of Amazon, I just bought a book on X, and all of a sudden I see, well, here's something kind of related. I usually don't put the original book back into the, get it out of the shopping cart. I may add another book to it.
That's the brilliance of the Internet, too. It makes, especially if you have sort of dial-up, it's kind of a pain to kick out the other one. So you just say, oh, okay, I'll just add this to my shopping cart. It's too hard to get the other one out, so fine, we'll just buy those.
Now, we were talking about book marketing, PR. The marketing part is how a lot of people get sales and marketing all, confused, including me, and I've been doing this a lot of years. Now, I do like a Google search, right? I'm first starting off as a self-publisher. I do a Google search under self-publishing, and I come up with 64 million listings. Okay, that's bad enough. I do a Google search under book marketing. You know how many listings I get? I get 114 million listings.
Yes.
So how in the world do I figure out the right place to start? It seems like you said PR doesn't cost any money, but I've never seen anything like it doesn't cost money.
It costs time. It costs a lot of time. And the reason why I put together the CD-ROM was because it took me, it's basically a compilation of the last 3 years of my book marketing career, of my life, of my own personal career, and what it is that I, learned from that. It's actually based on my online course, How to Market Your Book. So I put this together to save people a bunch of time and also money, because the fact of the matter is, a lot of authors have stars in their eyes. They're so happy they finally got their book published, and now they go and they pay someone to pitch their book to the media. They pay someone $1,500 a month at the very least to get a radio interview, something that they could do themselves very easily if they only had the confidence. And this instills, the CD-ROM, the Author's Companion, instills the confidence in them because it says, this is what you need to do. Take them by the hand and say A, B, C, D. You do these things, you're golden. You
had mentioned an online course. That was actually my next question. Do you still do that course? It was called How to Market Your Book. There was an online course.
How to Market Your Book. I haven't been doing it recently. What I've been doing instead is one-on-one private consultations with people, because I found that people had specific needs that were not necessarily addressed in the framework of the course. And so I have changed that. I'd be more than happy to do the course, but then there's the CD-ROM for that, really. And there's way more information in the CD-ROM than, and it's all compact, and there's 4 audios as well as a 70-page workbook. So essentially what I say to them is just, take this, and if you want my consultation, I would be more than happy to work with you as well. And I do it on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis or on an a la carte basis. So if someone just wants a press release, then I just do that for them.
Because I got a copy of the CD, and I took a look at it and listened to the interviews and all. I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, it's a good like how to follow the instructions here, and you can do this.
Exactly.
But like you said with the course, you found one of the reasons you weren't doing it is you found that people still had other questions. So part of the CD-ROM, does that include? I didn't see it. Does that include consultation time too, or is that something different?
Well, my consultation package actually includes the CD-ROM, so it's like that. It's that way. Otherwise, if they just buy the CD-ROM, then that's just they don't want my private consultation. Then it's just the CD-ROM that they pay for.
Your consultation, though, is really aimed towards getting the people to do it themselves. I mean, not you doing it for them. Okay.
Absolutely. My idea is, a lot of people call me a publicist, and that's really not what I do. I'm a PR consultant, and a consultant basically says, this might be a good idea to try this. So I'm in the background, they're in the foreground, they're pitching to the media, and I'm feeding them ideas and feeding them media leads. I like to say that I teach people how to fish versus feeding them for a day.
Okay.
And publicists basically feed you for a day. They will basically say, okay, you've got this radio interview on this day. And the amount of money that people charge is unbelievable. I mean, we're talking $20,000 a month.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard numbers all over the place. I've heard 3,000 is like the minimum, And then,
it is, actually.
And then I can't quite nail down anybody with what do I get for my $3,000. I mean, that's where it gets fuzzy.
You don't get anything. There are people like Annie Jennings, for example. She has a pay-for-placement program, and essentially what you do is you buy airtime, and you don't really know what it is. I mean, they'll say, for example, I talked to someone last year in their office, and they said $7,500 for what's called the top 10 radio package. And then you get 10 radio interviews on the top 10 radio programs. But what does that really mean? Is this going to be my target audience? Are we looking at parents, because that's my target audience? Or are we talking about single gay people in Greenwich Village? It's like that. I need a specific target audience, and if I don't really know who these people are, and I'm just talking on this radio program, maybe there are a million listeners, and they all really could care less. So that's where I think also the most passionate person is yourself, is the author. So that's why you come across more convincingly to the media if you're the one doing the pitching.
And they don't think anything less of you that you're doing it yourself versus having some hot shot like PR person.
There becomes a point where, for example, if you're Angelina Jolie, wouldn't it be weird if she called the Oprah show? Yeah, that would be weird. So of course you expect someone at that level to have somebody working for her. But if you're an author, they oftentimes, and I've been on radio program, I've listened in on, like Steve Harrison does this, he has a thing called the Radio and TV interview, something, what's it called?
I think Radio TV Interview Report. You buy ads in there, and basically I believe that producers supposedly get this newsletter, or how it started as a newsletter. It's a whole magazine now. And they see your ad.
And I listened in on his recent teleconference with 3 different TV producers, one of which is Michelle Anton, who used to work for Oprah as a producer, and now she works somewhere else. And there was a Montel Williams producer on, and that and whatnot. So pretty big name talk show producers, and they all said, we just want to talk to the guest. Like, we don't want to have to jump through hoops and deal with the publicist first, because they really are doing a pre-interview on the phone with the person. So if the person sounds really good and together and doesn't say and kind of doesn't stutter, then that person has already gone through the first hurdle. And they want to talk directly to the guest and not through the gatekeeper kind of person.
So what if you happen to be an kind of person? Are you kind of like screwed?
Go to Toastmasters. Toastmasters, baby.
I mean, not everybody knows how to talk. I mean,
yeah.
So
I know.
Because I find, a lot of people are like afraid to talk. Is that part of the consultation too? Or do you send them off to voice class? It seems like a lot of what.
Well, what I do oftentimes is I'll do telephone consultations with people, and I notice I can tell where their hot spots are and where they get nervous, and then I say, okay, this is where you need to work on this part. You need to work on your delivery on your 25-word blurb. I get people basically talking about their book in 25 words or less, because that's all you have. When you call a producer, you have 15 words or less, 15 seconds or less, and you don't really actually want to be talking about your book, but that's what you want to be talking about when they ask you. So you want to say, Diary of a Mother is about an Ivy League educated career woman turned housewife and what she goes through as a stay-at-home mom. Boom, that's it. And then, so that's your 25-word blurb. And what they really want to know, and this is the key when working with the media, is they want to know what you're going to do for them. the biggest mistake that authors make is that they talk about their book, they lead with their book, or they lead with their name, and nobody cares about that. What they care about is, what's the show segment going to be about? What are the questions going to be? What is the title even? How are you going to put this together? What are the visuals if you're talking about TV? You want to deliver all that on a silver platter, and then they could say yes or no, or we need to tweak this, or we need to invite that guest. But then you show them that you're a partner and you're working with them. It's not that you want something from them, but you're actually offering a solution to their problem.
Now, if I wanted to hire you, say, I just listened to this interview and, you sound perfect for me. I'd like to sign up. Sure, what's the price range? Because it sounds like you do a broad range. If I just wanted to, say, buy the CD and try it all on my own, how much does that, though, go for?
So the CD itself is $199.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, if you think about it this way, you're like, oh my God, a CD is $199, that's like really expensive. The reality is that everything that's in there is what your publicist would do for you and more. And the good news is that as you work through this turnkey marketing system that I've created, you actually are developing context with the media yourself. Mm-hmm. And so what you're doing is you're not only developing a platform for yourself by getting media hits and getting your name mentioned in different magazines that your target audience is reading, you're also developing relationships with the media. And that is essential. What publicists do is they have those relationships already, and then they just kind of fill in the blanks, and and they will send out the information to the people they think would be most receptive, but you don't know who those people are if you have a hired gun. If you yourself are hiring yourself, and you're the one going out there doing the footwork, you're developing a relationship with these people, and you know who they are. You know their email addresses. You maybe know their telephone numbers. You start to have a conversation with them, and it's really about networking with these people. And so what happens is if you write another book, then you already have a huge network in place, which is what happened with my Sam I Am book. It was a sequel to Diary of a Mother, and I went out to all the people that I already knew and got additional interviews with them, and it was very, very easy.
Now, $200 is not that much. I mean, people spend a whole lot more than that to sit in a classroom for 3 hours and listen to somebody talk.
Exactly.
There's no one thing that's going to be like the magic pill, I don't think. And on a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there, the idea with these, I find with the small publishers, is to try to keep them away from the thousands and the hundreds here and the hundreds there. A whole lot. You can buy a lot more. You can plant a lot more seeds, $100 at a time or $200 at a time, than you can taking a chance on one big promotion.
Exactly. The other thing is that book promotion is not a sprint. So you can't just say, okay, I'm just going to do a huge media blitz, and then everyone's going to remember me in 6 months. They will not remember you after 6 days. That's just how it is. It's how this works. So it's a marathon, and you want to have a sustained marketing program that says, okay, I'm going to look at maybe the 12 major holidays in the year, and I'm going to create a pitch around each and every one of those, and I'm going to send this out to all my radio contacts, and I'm going to send it out to the TV people, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. You want to have a multi-layered approach to it, and also you want to recognize that sometimes it will resonate and sometimes it won't. Perfect example, just a personal example with Sam I Am. It sold really well at the beginning of the year. Around Mother's Day, I had this really funny radio segment that I did with a lot of different places, and it worked really well. And then I did another back-to-school segment, and the sales slowed considerably. It's as though people weren't thinking Mother's Day anymore. They weren't thinking about mothers. They were thinking about going back to school. So I wasn't really the solution to their problem at the moment. But that's all really practice. It's all sort of understanding how it works. And oftentimes, even if you get a mention in a major magazine, like I was in Better Homes and Gardens, my blog, and my picture, everything right there in November. That's 7.3 million people looking at my picture. And I got a lot of media, I got a lot of blog hits, got a lot of viewings, that kind of thing. But the book sales really weren't that phenomenal at all. And it really was surprising to me. But that also just, again, what you're doing is you're building your credibility. Now people say, oh, you were mentioned, you were featured in this major magazine. That's really cool. So the next time I go to the media and say, this is what I have to say about this, and by the way, this is where I've already been, they're like, oh, yeah, okay, she's somebody we can talk to.
There was one thing I can't talk. I did read the book, The Author's Companion. It's real nice. It goes along with the audio. And there's one little thing, we can't talk about everything that's in there, but I got one thing I would like to talk about because it's always intrigued me and everybody talks about doing it, and that's the in-store book signing. You throw a little bit of time to that. Okay, it seems like something you can sink your teeth right into. Everybody can picture what a bookstore is. Everybody can picture Hillary Clinton sitting there signing books.
Yes.
How do we get started with this? Here, I'm Ron, and I just wrote this book, and I want to do a bookstore signing.
Well, first of all, I would say that, and I think this is something that Dan Poynter says too, the worst place to sell a book is in a bookstore.
Okay.
You know, because the reality is that you've got now 100,000 competitors sitting on the bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
That it's sort of a double-edged sword, because on the one side, people are going into a bookstore to buy a book, and they happen to see you, and people buy books from people more than anything. So if they really feel they know you, then they might very well buy your book. So it's not to say that book signings in a bookstore is bad. It actually can be very good. But I've heard so many stories where people say, and I did all of this marketing, and then nobody showed up because it was a Tuesday at 10 a.m. and it happened to be graduation or something like that, you know. Mm-hmm. So timing is everything, I think, with that. So let's just assume we were going to go to Barnes & Noble, okay, and we want to do a book signing, just to answer your question. Mm-hmm. You would go to the Community Relations Manager. It's called a CRM, and every Barnes & Noble has one. And you go to them and you say, I really would like to do a book signing. I'm a local author, and this is what I'd like to do, and this is the subject. And then you set up a time, and you want to have at least 6 weeks in advance, both for the marketing as well as for just telling working with the bookstore. So you want to talk to the manager about that. And then you want to have them order the books for you and make sure that they come. Like we want to do a lot of follow-up, make sure that the books are actually there, because I've often heard people show up to bookstores and then their books aren't there. So you want to make sure that you also bring books with you that you have, and set up a table a little bit towards the back of the bookstore, not at the very beginning of the bookstore, because you want people to kind of walk through, because they're usually not ready. They're not warmed up when they immediately walk through the door. They're not always ready to be addressed. So they kind of want to browse a little bit first. And one thing that is really helpful is getting the bookstore employees involved. There was one person, I think in my audio I mentioned this, or someone else mentioned it, that I was interviewing, that they had these really cool pins that they were selling. It's in a children's book, and they had these pins with a little monkey on it, and all of the bookstore workers got a little pin, and everybody was like, oh, what's that pin? Oh, well, there's a book signing at the back of the store. You want to go see the author's here today. So it creates that kind of excitement and sort of acknowledgement and recognition. Oh, there's a person who wrote a story about a little monkey. Oh, okay, so let's go to the back of the store and look. It creates curiosity for people.
Still thinking about that person that just goes on that you can't really get on a radio show. I mean, it seems like maybe getting a couple book signings, at least get you out there talking to people and get you more natural talking about your book.
It's hard for authors a lot of times because they're very introverted oftentimes. I'm not an introverted person, but a lot of authors that I know just don't want to talk about their book. They just want to write. So what there is to do is to take a dictaphone, or to be honest with you, Ron, the very first interview I ever did was on my daughter's play school recorder.
Okay.
And what I did was I pretended that my husband was the interviewer, and he basically interviewed me. We did a Q&A session. Then I took that tape and I sent it to this woman in Arizona. She used to have this website called bookcrazy.net. And she digitalized it for me and ran it on her website for 6 times in one day. And that was my very first radio interview that I ever did for my books.
Of course, the first time you played it back, you said that wasn't you, right? Everybody, first time they hear their own voice, say, well, I don't sound like that.
Yes, and it was amazing because I didn't realize how quickly I speak.
No.
It's almost as though... time's running out, I got to talk really fast. You just end up talking really quickly. And that's something I've had to work on, and I don't think I'm quite there yet. But it's helpful to play it, listen to it, try to get out the ums and the you-knows as much as you can. Go to a Toastmasters meeting. Toastmasters is there to help people, especially authors, with public speaking. Okay,
and like you say, it's not a sprint. There's plenty of time. Your book is still going to be new to that person the first time they see it.
There's plenty of time. I wrote Diary of a Mother in 2003. We now have almost 2006, and it's still selling, and it's something that I hope to continue to sell well into the future, because it's something that's timely, and it is a marathon. It's not something that you definitely don't want to just say, okay, the first 6 months I'm going to dedicate to this, and that's it. You want to keep at it.
All right. Well, Christine, it was very nice having you on the show today. One last question. Where are you located physically?
I'm physically located just north of Munich, Germany. My motto is, if an American housewife in a Bavarian cowtown can do it, so can you.
There you go.
Go to my website at authorscompanion.com, and please let me help you out.
Okay. Take care now. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Take care, Ron. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. For Publishing Basics Radio and selfpublishing.com, this is Ron Pramshafer. See you next week.